My e-commerce owners paying upfront deposits to your inventory vendors. This one is for you. In less than 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to handle vendor deposits inside of QuickBooks Online and actually apply them to your bills to make sure that your financial statements stay accurate throughout the whole process. But real quick, my name is Arthur. I'm an e-commerce accountant working with 6 and 7-figure brand owners to streamline their bookkeeping on the back end. I see this getting done wrong all the time with people expensing these vendor deposits. So I want to make this video for you so you can avoid that mistake if you're doing your books yourself. So I'm going to show you what mistakes not to make, but why do these mistakes actually matter? What impact do they have on your financial statements? Well, number one, like I said, many people expense these vendor deposits. If you're expensing it rather than marking it as an other current asset like it should be, then you're actually understating your assets on your balance sheet. And then number two, obviously, if you're marking that vendor deposit as an expense when it shouldn't be, you're going to be understating your profit on your profit and loss. And I know you don't want to see that lower number, do you? So real quick, before we hop into QuickBooks Online and I walk you through step by step how to do this, I want to give you an overview of the whole process. So number one, obviously, you're going to make that deposit. Once it comes through the bank feeds in QuickBooks Online, you're going to mark it as an other current asset so it shows up on your balance sheet. Then once you actually receive your bill from your vendor, you're going to apply that vendor deposit to that bill specifically, which is going to reduce your liability, aka how much you owe to that vendor. So next up, obviously, once you pay your bills and you get your inventory, the plan is to sell those products, hopefully, and then you're going to expense the cost of that inventory, including that initial vendor deposit, in your cost of goods sold. So let's hop into QuickBooks Online and I'll break it down right now. All right, guys, let's hope this works. No joke. It's like my 8th time recording this. It just keeps scratching out on me. But we're in the sample company, Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. So first things first is we're going to go to Transactions, Chart of Accounts. There we go. It crashed out again. Let's try this. Refresh this real quick. So Chart of Accounts, then we're going to go to New Account right here on the top right and call this vendor deposit so we can actually categorize any of our transactions to this account. And we're just going to call it other current asset. The reason it's called other current asset is because current in the context of accounting just means it's very liquid. It can be converted to cash within 1 year. So assuming that we actually use this vendor deposit within a bill in the next year, that's why we can call it current. So, and then press save on the bottom right there. So now that we have that added, let's go to bank transactions and look at our bank feeds in QuickBooks Online. And let's look at this $800 transaction with A1 rental. So let's assume this is so we spent the $800, as you can see under the column. This is our 20% deposit that we put in. So our total bill is going to be worth $4,000. What we have to do right here is click on that $800 deposit, label the vendor as A1 rental, or obviously whatever the vendor you actually paid is. And then we're going to call this vendor deposit. So what I like to do is add a memo, because if you're making multiple vendor deposits to your vendors, it can get pretty confusing. So I would recommend you make a little note to help you differentiate between the different deposits that you make. So what we can do is call this just based on the date. So 8/28/25. And let's say we know we're buying $4,000 worth of rock fountains in this specific case. So we're going to call it A1 rental, vendor deposit, 8/28/25 rock fountains. Now we can add that on the bottom right. So real quick, if we go to the top left, reports, standard reports, we should be able to see this $800 deposit on our balance sheet as another current asset. And so here's our balance sheet as of September 21st. And there's our vendor deposit for $800. So this is looking good. We're doing this right. So now let's say it's been a couple weeks and we actually finally received that bill from A1 Rental. So what we want to do is go to plus new, then bill under vendors, and make sure we get this entered properly. Number one, obviously to track how much we owe to other parties. And number two, to be able to match any of our transactions that we make, any payments to this bill specifically, so that those transactions just aren't laying around there unmatched to something. So we're going to label it exactly as you would get it from your actual vendor. So let's say this bill date is, we received it on the 9th, doesn't really matter. And we have net 15-day terms with the vendor. So what we can do is under item details, enter it based on what we got from the vendors. So let's say we were planning on purchasing 32 of these rock fountains at $125 a pop, giving us a total of $4,000, which, like I mentioned, we made that 20% deposit of $800 to cover a portion of this. So now that we have that, $800 deposit made, it doesn't make sense that this balance is still $4,000. You would expect it to be $4,000 minus that $800 deposit that we made. So what we want to do is go over to this category details right here and then type in vendor deposit. And if I remember correctly, we paid this on the 28th for the rock fountains. We basically want to match up this description to the memo that we made when we first categorized that transaction. And then what we're going to do is call it a negative $800 amount to essentially zero out this vendor deposit. And as you can see, it reduces our balance by $800 to this vendor as well, which is what we expect to see. So if all of this looks correct, mailing address, obviously sample company, so we don't have much there. But if the rest of it looks correct to you, what you can do is go to the bottom right and then press save and close as well. So now real quick, if we go back to our balance sheet, we should see that vendor deposit is zeroed out completely since we just made that negative entry for $800. And now, yeah, there we go. If we look at the vendor deposit account, it's zero, non-existent, which is what we expect. And that's the right thing to see. So let's go back to our bank transactions and let's assume that now we're actually making some payments against this bill. So obviously, for the most part, a bill like this, you would expect the vendor to receive payment completely. So we would pay that remaining $3,200 balance at once. But obviously, you can have different agreements with your vendor. So in this case, just because it's the sample company, let's say we only spent $1,200 of that remaining $3,200 that we need on that bill. So what we want to do is still match this $1,200, even though it's not the full payment. We want to offset the amount that we owe by the amount that we've paid. So we're going to click on this transaction, press match, and we should see this bill pop up. If we go over here, 99, yeah, there we go. So here's the bill from A1 Rental for $3,200. We're going to press that check mark right there, and we can see that payment of $1,200 is added on this column on the right. So once that's good to go, we can press match on the bottom right, and you'll see that it's categorized now. So we have our $800 deposit and then that actual bill payment. So now I can show you a cool report. If we had $3,200 outstanding and we just made a $1,200 payment, we would expect $2,000 to be left on that bill. So if we go to the Accounts Payable Aging Summary, this is the report that shows you all of the bills that you have outstanding. We're going to see that this bill from A1 Rental is at $2,000. So exactly what we expect, meaning our books are spot on for this bill. So there we go. That's basically the entire process of making vendor deposits and then applying them to any bills that you get from your vendors as well. So I know it might seem like a lot of things to do just for one vendor deposit, but if you want clean books, it's what you got to do. Hopefully this video answered all your questions, but if you're still confused or you just don't want to deal with this at all, click on the link in the description or in the pinned comment as well for a free QuickBooks Online audit. I'll hop on a call with you one-on-one, we'll break down your books, and I'll give you at least 3 things you can fix right now to make your numbers more accurate in QuickBooks Online. All you gotta do is click the link, pick your time, and show up. That's all it takes. But regardless of whether you need the help or not, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more e-commerce bookkeeping and accounting tips and tricks coming out soon.